The natural state is known for its haunted places, and for many, what they have experienced is unnatural. Good evening and happy Halloween. I'm Chris Carter. From hearing voices to seeing things that just can't be explained, there are stories of spirits plentiful enough to write dozens of books. Over the next hour, we will take you on a tour of some of those places and let you decide if there really are hidden haunts amongst us. And we do want to warn you and let you know that some of the stories we will be sharing tonight have some video and audio impacts that might be sensitive for people with sensitivities. We are going to start our journey in Randolph County, where a business known for its metaphysical offerings may also be harboring spirits from beyond. Under a moonlit sky, a quaint Pocahontas shop reflects the eerie light shrouded in mystery. This unassuming place holds a hidden secret, a presence that defies the mundane.
There are a lot of spirits here.
Teresa Oden is one of the owners of Spirit Knows. She welcomed me and a few paranormal investigators on a recent Monday night, but we weren't going on this adventure by ourselves.
We're never alone. We'll be ever. Spirit is everywhere.
With Spirit at our side and the help of fellow co-owners Tammy Ross and Teresa Callantine, we joined investigator Doug Cousins for a night of study, delving into the supernatural. We used a technique called the Estes method to connect with whoever may have joined us unannounced. It began with me being placed in a chair, blindfolded, plunged into darkness. I was given a pair of headphones.
I'm going to ask questions, but you won't hear me.
And with the lights out, I began listening to a spirit box, a device emitting white noise. If you listen closely enough, you just might hear a word or two. My first word? Love. As the group asked me questions, I strained to listen, immersed into the eerie soundscape of the unknown. I listened, my heart pounding in the darkness, only occasionally catching a word. Stairs. There was a theory behind what I was hearing. Callantine explained.
You get voices and words, and that's the way the spirit communicates with you, is through the white noise.
Not getting much from me, we put Oden in the chair. She, of course, is the expert, unafraid of the forces at play. It didn't take long for her to pick up on something. Her senses attuned to the malevolent spirits that resided here.
Hey!
It's believed she talked to two different spirits, one appearing friendly, while the other...
I said stop.
...was clear in its disdain for investigator Doug Cousins. Did Doug arrest you?
I just don't like you.
Having investigated paranormal activity for years, Cousins believed whoever didn't like him wasn't evil, just territorial.
I don't think anything will follow us home. I think it's just all, this is their place. They don't want people messing around in here.
As the minutes passed, we turned our attention to another method using EMF readers.
Do you know you're dead?
Situated around a table, we tried to communicate, but the conversation was quiet. Whoever had joined us was no longer there, at least to us untrained souls. But for the three owners, the voices are always there.
I've heard full-on conversations before. I've been woken up in the middle of the night having things whisper in my ear.
Owner Tammy Ross explained that just a few nights before our arrival, during a different investigation, the crew picked up on several words from beyond. Listen for yourself and see if you hear them. The ladies of the shop said they heard, "Get out." Listen again. Try this one. Listen closely. Did you hear "help me"? Tammy, Teresa, and Teresa did. It took them years to perfect their craft, and while it may be hard to believe, the trio said that you too have a spiritual gift. It just takes work.
It takes a bit trying different things to find out what you're really good at. And what you do with that is just keep practicing and working with it, and slowly it builds up stronger and stronger.
It's the only way for you to notice the noises that you may be ignoring, because after all, there's no way to know who's lurking around you or what happens after death. As Cousins said,
Can't be an expert till you die.
anything else?
I'm not ready to be an expert.
It's a chilling tale of spirit knows and the mysterious world of the paranormal that seamlessly merge, where the lines between the living and the dead blurred, and the unknown beckoned with an allure.
I feel like some of it may be residual, but for the most part, I think it's just people passing through some of it.
Now, history is more than just understanding the past. In some cases, it can bleed into paranormal activity. And one Sharp County town is embracing the presence of spirits. A group of people in Hardy have formed ghost tours throughout the town. It will take attendees to spots said to be unseen and popular with them. One of those stops is near the Hardy Railroad crossing. It is said the tracks are a place where a female spirit tends to hang out, much to the surprise of those who travel through the town.
Was a lady in a white dress standing in the middle of the train tracks, and as he was putting on his horn for her to move, she didn't. When the train slows down, he's all confused. He's going to check and see if he just hit this lady, and she shows up beside him and kisses him on the cheek.
And those who take part in the tours are provided equipment to help them detect the presence of those who not everyone can see. And visit any place with history, and you're certain to hear the stories of hauntings. Some of those places have numerous buildings full of folklore. That is the case at Lyon College, where there are plenty of stories. Our Macy Davis traveled to campus where Brown's Chapel is said to have a few spirits haunting it.
Brown Chapel, known by some as the heart of Lyon College's campus, holds a lot of tradition, memories, and stories.
A number of stories that are related to, we'll call them hauntings, probably the most notable of the stories.
According to Dr. David Hutchison, the Vice President for Advancement at Lyon College, many can be traced back to before Lyon College, formerly known as Arkansas College, was founded.
This was actually a Masonic orphanage for many years. The orphanage eventually closed, and the college took over these properties in the mid-1950s. And the buildings were right up here, actually. Some beautiful Baroque buildings were on this hill.
The encounters that have been told over the years involve hearing the laughter of children who may have once lived in the orphanage. Those same kids have allegedly been seen playing in the chapel.
One of the most significant ones is that in the light of dusk, if you look at the crown of the steeple, sometimes you can see children dancing around the steeple playing Ring Around the Rosie. I've never seen it myself, but I can say that just like on the stage in Brown Chapel, I have heard what sometimes sounded like children laughing.
Some Lyon students even coming in at night to see if the tales hold any truth, particularly for one involving a ghost named Michael.
The tradition says that late at night you can sometimes hear Michael playing, and if you set out something like a ball on the stage, Michael loves toys. And so Michael will sometimes roll the ball across the stage.
Hutchison is part of a music group that rehearses in Brown Chapel on a weekly basis, and sometimes unexplained events occur.
Many times in between songs, we hear what sounds like a voice or something being dragged around in the backstage, but nobody's ever here. We've even gotten up and checked and never found anything.
The rumors and encounters well known by students that attend the college.
When I found out I was doing this story yesterday, I walked past Brown Chapel and I kind of the hairs on my arms started standing up and stuff.
The building gives senior Aiden McGowan an eerie vibe.
Kind of creepy a wee bit, especially at night when you're walking on your own around campus, there's stories of you can see the children of the orphanage playing in the steeple and stuff.
The college has even had ghost hunters come check the building out.
A medium came with them. She came into the building, and the story is that she kind of stopped halfway through the main auditorium here, said that she was experiencing some kind of presence, and began to guess, is it Nathaniel? Is it Mark? Is it Matthew? No, it's Michael.
Beyond Brown Chapel, there may actually be more corners of Lyons campus that are home to mysterious occurrences.
And they revolve around this tapestry, which was gifted to the college many years ago. And the story goes that the tapestry actually was in the room of a bride on the day of her wedding, who unexpectedly and tragically died the day of her wedding.
That tapestry still resides in the Bevins Music Room.
In the evening, especially in moonlight, students have said that if you come in here, you will catch a glimpse of the bride-to-be dancing in the moonlight with her groom-to-be.
So, are there ghosts haunting Lyon College?
I don't know if there are children dancing on the steeple of Brown, but I know that I've heard these stories from an awful lot of people, and I have occasionally experienced a few odd disturbances myself, so who am I to say?
All right, Macy joins me now after this experience. What was it like over there?
It was so cool, and the thing is, so I grew up in Batesville, and I grew up going to events at Brown's Chapel in Lyon College, and it's just such a cool experience. I loved going there, but as I was growing up, I would hear all these stories about these kids that would be playing around. People would see these ghosts. It was the craziest thing. Did I have any personal experience with ghosts? No. I did not. And I kind of wanted to have an experience with a ghost. You know, you need to have that experience.
You could have played catch with Michael out there.
Right. I should have got a ball and just rolled it across the stage, but he didn't say anything.
He didn't want to play.
Didn't reach out. Didn't want to play, I guess. But so many people have heard it. Who knows? Could be haunted.
Yeah, and you talked to a lot of people while you were there. What were some of the other stories you heard?
Yeah. So some of the other stories are, you know, people will go up to the top of the chapel, and then they hear people talking to them, and so they hear like these whispers and people, you know, saying get out, and so kind of scary, kind of.
But you didn't really experience anything while you were there.
No, I didn't.
So.
I didn't experience it. But so these are all just rumors. I don't know if they're actually true.
We're gonna have to send you back and have you.
I know.
Like get some EMF readers and some paranormal investigators out there.
Definitely a follow-up. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that isn't the only place that you have looked at for this series, Hidden Haunts.
That's right. Yeah.
You also went to Missouri.
Yes, I went to Doniphan, Missouri, and pretty crazy there.
Yeah, you were investigating the hauntings of our government in Doniphan. Let's take a look at what she found there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just be careful where you step.
The small town of Doniphan, Missouri, founded in 1847, has a close-knit community with residents invested in its history from Native American camps to Civil War battles.
A lot of history makes it interesting. Some of the stories that the local folk people can tell you.
Ripley County Sheriff Mike Barton is no stranger to the stories that have supernatural twists.
Right around midnight, while patrolling, as I was coming down Lafayette Street approaching the courthouse, one of the windows on the north side of the courthouse, a light was on. Shouldn't be no lights on after midnight. Well, I seen a male figure, tall, dark hair, walk across the window. I enter the courthouse. I search the courthouse. There is no persons inside the courthouse.
The courthouse is a spawn for alleged ghost activity. While it's been rebuilt twice, the original building stood there in the 1840s. Even the staircase of the courthouse has its own ghost story.
You can talk to the elected official that works in the courthouse, and if they're here after hours, when nobody else is in the courtroom or in the courthouse, you will hear footsteps coming up those steps and creeping and popping.
Just a few feet from the courthouse is the old Doniphan jail.
3 cells with 2 bunks in each cell, and for the inmates to get exercise, the sheriff would let the inmates out of the cells and they could walk this hallway right here.
Although the jail is obviously no longer in operation, there may be a little something left behind, at least from what Sheriff Barton has seen.
An arm figure came out of the window and I seen the arm figure waving. So I'm thinking somebody has broken into the old jail. I come in and check and there is nobody here.
Spooky stories spark all over the small town. One Doniphan couple purchased part of the old Doniphan Community Hospital to restore. The building itself is over 100 years old.
We know our relatives walk these halls and were in these buildings, and so that's pretty cool. It's like owning a piece of our family history in some ways.
Kat Robinson is one of the owners.
So this is the stairs up to the patient's rooms.
And said they pretty quickly realized, even when it's just her and her husband,
I don't like to go up by myself.
they may not be alone.
We see things like people just walking through the hallway and just catch a glimpse. We hear the front door open and close a lot, and there's nobody there.
One instance during the restoration process really caught them off guard.
We were working on the building downstairs. We opened the door and the lights were on upstairs. But the interesting thing of it was there was no electricity connected upstairs that we knew of. And so when we tried to shut off the lights, we couldn't shut them off. We threw all the breakers, they didn't go off. We actually had to go out to the electric pole outside and throw the main, and they finally went off.
A hot topic for Kat and Brett is the hospital's old morgue.
People laugh at me about, here I am, the Halloween queen, but I won't go into the morgue.
So how did you feel when you went down there?
It's, when you think about, what happened down there, and you kind of look over your shoulder and,
Expect to run into a zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel, like I said, kind of guarded.
Not alone.
While K8 photojournalist Ian Lawrence was setting up the camera for our interview with Kat, we heard something mysterious ourselves.
Well, as soon as we walked downstairs, we started talking and no one was upstairs. Everything was, turned off. And then we just hear a random banging sound.
Mm-hmm. It was really crazy. Was it a ghost? I want to say it was, but I don't know. We may never know, but it was spooky.
While she doesn't consider the old hospital to be haunted, Kat thinks there are definitely some lingering spirits.
It's just like we were saying, more of a feeling of just kind of not being alone.
But you feel like there has been some kind of presence.
There has been, and I really think all of downtown has stuff going on.
All right, Macy, I have to know, what did you hear from this spirit or this ghost?
Okay, it was the weirdest thing. If we had just come down from the upstairs area where the patients' rooms were, Ian was setting up the camera for Kat's interview, her full interview that we were going to do with her, and then we hear just this huge bang, just out of nowhere. There was nothing that could have been disturbed up there that caused the noise, and it was so loud that we had like no question. It was spooky, especially with what we were talking about while we were there. So it was wild. I think it was a ghost. I'm just gonna be honest. I think it was something supernatural. But
did you finish the interview, or did you go outside, or what did you do?
Yeah, we finished the interview, and even Kat, she was like, oh, I guess there are some spirits here. I don't know if they're happy that y'all are here, but there may be some spirits here right now.
Yeah, and you were talking about there's a lot of history in Doniphan. It's a small town, but there's a lot of history. Did you get any other stories about things around town?
Yeah, actually, so one of their cemeteries is actually said to be haunted, and there is a statue there of a woman, and some people say that when you look at her at midnight, you'll see a tear drop from her eye. Some people have even seen her like waving at them when they go there super late at night. They're not supposed to be there late at night, but yeah, they see them waving and see her crying. So yeah. Interesting stuff. There were so many stories in Doniphan that I could have told that are just super spooky. There was also another restaurant. It was an old restaurant where Mrs. Finch, she was a cook there, and she said to just hate it when people come into her restaurant and try to do other things with it. So she'll yell at them to get out because she wants to keep a tight kitchen. She
wants to stay at that restaurant.
So I didn't include that in my story either, but yeah, just Doniphan, Missouri, apparently just
a lot of hidden history there.
Yeah.
And so you went to two different places. Mm-hmm. Were you a skeptic of the supernatural going into this, or did you kind of believe? And do you still have the same opinion?
Yeah, I would say that I probably definitely was a skeptic. I've never had any kind of spooky, ghostly experiences in my life. But after this, I will say that, I think there may be, the possibility of something else being out there, especially after the loud bang that we heard in our interview. So
you're gonna pick up like a side hustle as a paranormal investigator?
Yeah, I think that's my next job.
That's your next job? Mm-hmm. We'll look for Macy doing ghost hunts here.
That'll be my second, like on the weekends, I'll try to pick up a extra job.
When she's not working. All right, well, Macy, great stories. Thank you for taking part. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and politics, well, they can be spooky as well, but what's even more spooky is some Some people believe the Arkansas State Capitol is haunted. Several years ago, the group called the Spirit Seekers spent hours poking around the building at night. They said they are convinced there are spirits there. During their investigation, they heard faint noises and the name Edward being whispered. The Capitol sits on the site of a former prison. Across the state, many people go to work thinking they know their coworkers, but there is one place in downtown Jonesboro where a group of people believe they are not the only entity clocking in. We first introduced you to the ghost of spiritual awakenings on Main Street in 2021. What we found were some spirits that wanted to say hi.
Here.
Roy. I'm telling. To the back of your neck, it's getting louder.
No, there is something in here.
I swear to God, I just felt something crawl up the back of my neck.
Walk the halls of this downtown business, and those who work here believe they aren't working alone.
Something's already there.
Now it's down.
On a chilly Tuesday night, we went ghost hunting inside Spiritual Awakenings and Healing Center with the store's owners and paranormal investigator Doug Cousins.
A lot of questions I could sit here and ask all night if he'd answer me.
It started as a quiet night, some practical jokes at my expense. The folks I spent the night with thought brushing my back would be funny. Oh. Late into the hunt, things got interesting. As we stood in the hallway of the business,
I swear to God, I just keep feeling something like rubbing my shoulders in the back of my neck.
KIT8 news director Grindel Levy felt something on her back.
It was a light touch, but it was persistent. Creepy in a way, but yet I wasn't scared.
We spent several minutes using an EMF reader asking questions to whatever it was that had joined us.
Did you live here in this building? No.
Yeah. We did get some answers here and there, but the biggest response came as a store owner brought his reader closer to Levy.
Wow.
The closer I get to her.
Check that out.
832.
The entity that joined us claimed to have never lived in human form. For investigator Doug Cousins, the experience we had was likely limited. He believes there is more here in this old building.
It's medium. What we've seen tonight is medium. But I think if we come back here and work it hard over many hours, we could probably get something going.
We don't know what it is we actually dealt with.
The only expert is going to be a dead person.
But the next time you walk by this downtown business, remember, you may not see the person watching you.
No, there is something beyond a reasonable doubt.
And the spirits inside Spiritual Awakenings have not gone anywhere. After our first encounter of 2021, we wanted to know if the entities were still calling the building home last year. So we set out for a follow-up in 2022. What we found? Well, take a look.
Are you a male? Have you ever been in human form?
A lot of activity tonight.
Inside the dark rooms of Spiritual Awakenings.
Did you come visit because I asked you to come visit with us?
May live a piece of the past.
Did you work in this building?
On a dark Friday night, we set out to find who may be calling this decades-old building home. We began in a small room with basic questions.
He's very excited about talking to us.
Ones that can be answered with simple yes or no's.
It wasn't scary. We kind of ran out of things to ask because it was only yes or no. It's not like they could come out and give us a life story.
Roy Tanksley is the co-owner of the business. It's been around for the last year and a half, and on the night we visited, whoever called this building home had some stuff to say.
There it goes.
Hey.
Mine's lighting up.
Mine is too.
Yeah, both of them.
They're trying to communicate.
Good Lord of orbs.
Look at all those little...
And our video caught something a little out of the norm.
We had orbs, which are little lights that were like pouring down. A lot of activity here.
The entity we spoke to using EVP reader said it had never lived in human form. Paranormal investigator Doug Cousins led our hunt.
Whoever we were talking to is pretty good, pretty cheerful. They seemed like they had a sense of humor at one point.
Late into the hunt, things got interesting. As we stood in the hallway of the business,
I swear to God, I just keep feeling something like rubbing my shoulders and the back of my neck.
KIT8 news director Grindel Levy felt something on her back.
It was a light touch, but it was persistent.
A little different than a year ago when we did our first hunt. At that time, the spirits were getting a little too friendly with KIT8's news director. Cousins has a theory as to why the reactions of whatever we encountered this year were different than last year.
I don't think we talked to the same person we did a year ago here.
It just said spin if you can hear me in my head, and it started spinning.
Throughout our hunt this year, we used new ways to communicate, including a pendulum and tarot cards, a specialty for store owner Tanksley.
It's a child. She's waiting for a child.
We don't know what we actually dealt with, but Cousins believes they are friendly.
Peaceful. In peace.
And likely here to stay.
They're everywhere. It's like anything else. We have to live together.
Now, those who work at Spiritual Awakenings work with these entities every day, and in many ways, they've just come to expect them to show up to work with them. We are now joined by Roy Tanksley, who works at the store still. Roy, what can you tell me about its experiences that you've had in the building?
Well, first off, happy Halloween.
Yes.
But so when we first got there, we moved into the store in May of 21, and really didn't think much about it, but as time went on, stuff started happening. And you know, it's an older building and it wasn't anything unexpected, but we went through a period of time where there was a lot of activity. Things were flying off the walls. We had a jewelry display that tried to jump out of one of our customers and stuff, and we had to do some cleansing of the place and calming everything down because something had happened in there that irritated them. It may have been us, it may have been something else, we don't really know. But there's noises all the time there. A lot of the stuff we feel have to do with heat and cold. It'll be a perfectly fine day. The next thing you get this cold breeze going on in there with no explanation. And of course, there's always the stuff where your skin starts crawling a little bit. You know something's there. You don't know what it is. We're on their turf. We've moved into their space. And I think a lot of people think that all entities are like these evil things. These aren't. These are just energies that hang out there. So if they're friendly with us, we just accept them and go right on.
And you have some spiritual gifts of your own. Can you tell me about those, what they are, and how you came about learning that you had them?
Well, I was very skeptical until I was about 25. And a lot of things happened in a year. And one of the things that happened was a friend of mine brought me a deck of tarot cards. And I thought they were kind of hokey. Everything I'd seen was on television. Anyway, but I was curious about them, so I started playing with them. And the next thing I knew, I was able to get stories out of these cards. And then I started getting these spiritual lessons and being able to pass them on. So for the past 35 years or so, I've been working in this spiritual realm. I also have the ability to do healing work on people. All this has happened over a period of time, me working with it. Everything I've done, it started out with I'll believe it when I see it, because I'm not very gullible typically, so I'm pretty careful. But what I discovered is that the whole healing arts thing, it all works into one thing. A lot of people come to see me to get cards read or to get their chakras balanced or all these other things. But basically, I'm just a spiritual being having a human experience, which is like the rest of us. And my job is to show kindness and love. So,
you mentioned this a little bit earlier, that you're on their turf when you moved in. And you mentioned that a lot of people think that spirits are evil or can be dangerous. And I've done 4 ghost hunts now with you, I believe, and never had a bad experience. What is it usually like for people who experience these ghosts or these entities?
My sense, I don't know what it is for other people, but my sense is that they go in with a lot of fear, and so, or aggravation, and they tend to get the stuff stirred up. I don't do that. I've never been particularly scared. I've had some weird things happen. I guess the strangest one was I had a little apartment in Albuquerque, and I'm not a particularly good housekeeper, I'll tell you right that. But anyway, so my dishes were all in the sink, and I'd set a plate off on the table, and I turned around, and this plate leapt onto the floor right beside me and crashed. It was a ceramic plate, and it broke. And I knew there was an entity in this house. I think it was a little old lady. I told her, I said, if you're able to move a dish, you can wash the dishes. And that's sort of the way I respond to it. It's like I'm not easily intimidated by stuff. I've done a lot of graveyard searching and stuff. I've had entities actually speak to me and all these different things. I don't get freaked out. Other people that do, you know, we're raised a lot of times to believe that all that is very evil. And it's I don't believe that. That's not been my experience. I've never been scared. I've been on guard and stuff, and I've known people to have some really terrifying experiences. But I think it's all sort of what you come in there with. I don't think that they intentionally are trying to harm us.
Yeah. Did your friend in Albuquerque do the dishes for you?
No, but she left me alone after that.
Because she didn't want to do the dishes.
Again, yeah.
I don't blame her. I don't like doing dishes. That's what dishwashers
absolutely.
are for.
But I just was perplexed at why she would throw a dish at me, because I had never done anything to her personally. So.
Yeah. Do you enjoy this? Do you find happiness in it?
I am living my bliss. This is the greatest. I am living someone else's life as the greatest life I've ever had. I've done a lot of things for a living. But having been able to totally put my focus on this creative expression of healing work and all is absolutely what I adore. And I wake up every morning pretty happy, and I go to bed at night pretty satisfied. And I met a lot of really amazing people.
Yeah. Spiritual Awakenings, downtown Jonesboro. Where can people find you?
311A Main Street. It's right next to the parsonage. We sell crystals and jewelry and incense and all the divination tools and herbs and so on and so forth. And you can get readings there and healing work, and we have other people that are involved with us that do sound therapy and Reiki and all kinds of stuff. But we're sort of a non-traditional spiritual center for we're the original spiritual center for the town. The town has come a long way in opening their minds.
And those who stop by might just get to say hi to a spirit or a friendly face that they don't see.
Or at least me.
At least Roy. All right, Roy, we appreciate all your help with these stories over the last couple years.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, and thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate it, Roy. Well, Jonesboro is full of hidden, haunted history. You may even pass it by every day and not know it. These places are the topic of a book, Haunted Jonesboro. Our Chase Gage talked to the author about the secrets that the town holds.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for asking. I mean, it's amazing.
That was weird. Literally, as soon as this came on, this fell off of my shelf. I don't know, man. That was a little creepy. Just start off. Tell me, since I haven't read the book, I know that's like terrible journalism here. Didn't even read the book yet that I'm here to talk about, but tell me a little bit about it.
The book Haunted Jonesboro came out of my starting the Jonesboro Ghost Tour. And it was a collection of stories that I had researched when I began the tour. And I was very fortunate because some of these things are kind of canonized folklore for the region, and others were told to me by specific people who had it as part of how they grew up or part of their own personal experience. So while I was doing this ghost tour, I was contacted by a publisher that said, would you consider putting your tour stories in a book? And I thought they were kidding. I thought, yeah, they want the book and then $500 or something, and spent a year putting those stories into the book and kind of crafting a Northeast Arkansas haunted narrative into that book. And that's how it came about. Like I said, there's some of these stories are kind of Northeast Arkansas cultural folklore canon, the Keller's Chapel thing, and there's a chapter in the book about that. Crowley's Ridge State Park, there's one of those traditional stories. Every town has a story where when you're driving by at night, you see somebody hitchhiking on the road, right? And you pick them up and they give you some dire message about the end of the world or something going to happen. You look back in the rearview mirror and they're just gone. Yeah, right. Poof, gone. And that is a traditional story. Well, one of the versions of that story, really well known in our area there in Northeast Arkansas, is this teenager who was lost in a swimming prank out at Crowley's Ridge State Park. But that's one of those stories that every place and every town in the world has a version of, and that's Northeast Arkansas's version right there. There's one of my favorites was a story told to me by 3 retired nuns who worked at St. Bernard's. And it's called The Demon Waif of 73. You remember 1973, we had the devastating Jonesboro tornado.
Mm-hmm.
These two ladies were on duty at the hospital when that happened. And the cars and the ambulances just kept coming. People were injured. It was a terrible, awful, awful night for anyone in healthcare profession and first responders that night. And they had an experience with one little girl who was brought in who seemed to be, for lack of a better term, orphaned, and some very strange things that went on. These two ladies came to my ghost tour and asked if they could talk to me after it was over. They sat on a curb of the parking lot out in front of the Forum, and they told me this story. And they said they just felt compelled to come and tell me this story because they wanted to give that story away, that they had held it for so long. And I got to tell you, it is a spine tingler.
I just think that's really cool that it's maybe a history here, you know, partially haunting, partially history that people just don't know about.
Right. We always called the ghost tour a time where history meets mystery.
There you go.
Because it is built into the history of any place, any town in the world has these ghost stories. And part of what ghost stories do from an anthropological point of view is they affirm to us a just universe, right? Like if I'm just making something up here, but let's say someone was greatly wronged or murdered unjustly. Oh, their ghost comes back to tap you on the shoulder and seek justice. So you'll finally find out the truth. So there's a factor of that. And then underneath that, of course, is the idea that life goes on after our time physically on planet Earth. And it affirms that to us as well. Now you can break those down into a bunch of different categories, but historians see a great value in this because your ghost stories tell me a lot about your values.
Obviously, how do we get our hands on one of these books? And like I said, my boss has one that I can borrow, but if I want one for my bookshelf back here, how do I get a hold of that book?
So the truth is the book is out of print right now.
Okay.
As I understand, you can go on eBay or something and get a copy for $2,500. And I'm just going to say, listen, if you want to do that, just send me the $2,500. I'll tell you stories all night. Okay?
That sounds like a bargain right there, man.
There you go. So the truth is you can't get it right now unless you find it from a used bookseller, Abe Books or something like that. Might be a few copies floating around, but that's been a deal that it's out of print and is still in demand, which again is like, I didn't see that coming, but we're going to do a new version of it and it will be released next Halloween. The updated, expanded version of Haunted Jonesboro will come out next Halloween. That's when you can pick one up, and it'll be bigger and better than the old version.
Sometimes development erases a piece of the past. What it can't get rid of are the spirits and entities that call those places home. That is the case of the Bono Bridge, where an old bridge was taken down for a new path for traffic. But the story of a young woman who calls the train tracks beneath lives on. Follow this train down a busy set of Craighead County train tracks. And you may have an encounter
right down there. I creeped out.
You were not expecting.
Is there anyone out here with us?
The tracks that run under the Bono Bridge are said to be haunted. On a windy Friday night, we went ghost hunting with the help of paranormal investigator Doug Cousins.
1, 2, 3, scream.
Our hunt for spirits began before the sun set. Legend has it, if you listen closely, you may hear the screams of a young girl from just around the bend. Cousins has not seen her, but he's heard the stories.
There's a girl that walks the tracks certain nights. She's transparent, light-colored, a child.
Home to the once decades-old wooden Bono Bridge, the stories of haunted experiences are vast. Built in the 1800s, the wooden slats of this old bridge were torn down in the early 2000s. It was said to have been the place for some.
It used to be the occult ganged up under the bridge on certain moon nights and had satanic rituals.
And as the sun set, random, unexplained noises could be heard coming from the woods next to the tracks. We aren't sure what it was. Cousins has an idea, though.
I think there could be an entity out here. I think it could be the girl or someone else.
Using phones and recording devices as darkness set, Cousins hoped to have picked up a response from his many questions.
Can the train get you and kill you? Is that what you...
The technology can capture sounds the human ear cannot.
They'll pick up stuff we won't hear. Frequency difference. That's why those digital recorders are so good.
Cousins does not believe the spirit, the ghost, or whatever may be known to others is dangerous. But then again,
They can make you hurt yourself. And, you know, it's a matter of religion too. If you're a religious person, you know, it's the devil.
so the next time you drive across the new and improved Bono Bridge, remember, a piece of the past may be traveling with you.
I've done this since the 80s. I know there's something out here. I've seen it, I've heard it, I've recorded it.
And understanding spirits and ghosts is complex. Being able to communicate and see them is even more complex. And for the last 3 Halloweens, when we have set out to uncover these stories, we've used the help of paranormal investigator Doug Cousins, who needs no introduction. We have seen him several times in this special with his stories. Doug, how did you get involved in paranormal activity?
Well, that's a hard question. I always loved it, but at one time, I seen my friend got killed. And later that night, I seen him briefly, and it startled me. Then I got reinterested and started investigating and studied it, and just went from there.
Yeah. How long have you been doing ghost hunts, paranormal activity?
Oh, in the 80s is when I started.
So quite a while.
And, oh, yeah.
Is there one story or situation that sticks out with you the most that you've experienced?
Yes, the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs. There's a bunch of us up there, and you generally don't aggravate the spirits, or I don't, to get responses, but I wasn't thinking real well that night. Or neither was my buddy Kevin. And long story short, they sell Crescent Hotel Ouija boards at the time, and he bought one. And when we seen it fly off the bed and hit the floor, we kind of...
You were done?
We were done.
You were done.
We decided not to aggravate them anymore.
Yeah.
And I've never done it since.
We've done 4 or 5 together of these over the last few years, and we've used different tools in a lot of them. We used a new one that we talked about in our story from Spirit Knows and Pocahontas earlier.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about what sort of devices you use and what they do and how they pick up on these spirits' voices and words that we sometimes hear?
Well, the device we used the other night when we was blindfolded and listened to basically sort of white noise. It's called the
Estes.
Yeah, like Estes Park, because that's where it was come up with in 2016. But I've never used that, and I'm so impressed with it that it may be another tool, because before I really learned from the ladies how to use that, I always kind of wrote it off. But now it has my attention.
We have used EMF, we've done pendulums, we've done tarot card readings. We've done it all in our adventures. Is there one that you think works the best, that gets you the best results?
Just a tape recorder.
Just a tape recorder.
If you don't need any of that fancy stuff, I've got $10,000 worth of stuff that I use the $49,
tape recorder
and EMF reader, and that's all you need.
Just put it on the table and ask questions and listen to it back?
Yeah, I mean, just act like they're sitting across from you. And like in one of those other stories, it's just like Bigfoot. I mean, we're invading his space. We're invading their space, so they're going to check us out.
And they want to know who you are.
Who you are, and we've had a spirit in our house here in Jonesboro, and finally got rid of it. I mean, we were cleaning out a rent house we had and found this box and opened it up. Come find out it was ashes of a person.
Oh.
So for months, I tried to contact the family, you know, and I did in Memphis, and they said, "Don't want nothing to do with it." Said, we're glad he's gone.
They left it behind for a reason.
So, but we had a tanning bed out in the garage, and my wife would use that, and my desk was just kind of, I could see through there in the garage. But she come out of there one night, somebody was watching her looking in there. I forgot what the story was now, but it disturbed her greatly. But anyway, we finally had a little ceremony with the box of ashes, and it went away.
And gone.
Gone. Had the same thing over in Tennessee. It was on an old plantation. They built a neighborhood, you know, behind the plantation, and that was probably one of the other scariest. Well, it got my attention so bad that I quit for 1 year. I wouldn't touch it, wouldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
I ran across those tapes last night while I was working.
Huh?
They were erased for years. They killed the cameras just like it did, you know, in our place the other night. So.
Do you think that most people have the ability to engage with spirit or talk to spirit, hear spirit, and it's just something they haven't honed, or is this really just a special gift for a select few special people?
Hard question. I think anybody could do it. But you got to know what to look for, just like hunting or fishing or whatever. You can go there and sit all day and never kill a squirrel, because you don't know what to look for. You don't know what to listen for, because the listening to that part, an hour tape will take 3 to 4 hours to go through, because back up, go forward, slow it down, speed it up.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of interesting things that you do, and a lot of interesting things that we've uncovered over the years.
Yeah.
We appreciate you always being available to help us out with these stories, Doug, and I'm sure there are many more to come.
Oh, I imagine.
All right, thanks, Doug, and thanks for being here tonight. Happy Halloween.
You too.
All right, sometimes the ghosts and spirits we hear about are hard to catch. Some claim to have seen them, while most are left wishing for a sighting. That is the case just across the Arkansas border. It's where folklore has people talking, and it's about stories in 2 popular haunted locations in Dunklin County. Former K8 reporter Amani Williams checked them out last year. Here's what she found.
A short drive across the Arkansas border sits Zenith, Missouri, a town with the slogan Cotton Country, but also a town where scary rumors float around or even light up the sky.
I've never seen the light, but I've talked to a lot of people that have.
The Zenith Light, a story passed down for generations, starts down a dirt road where a tree once stood. A tree where it is said a person was hung. And now if someone drives that way and flashes their headlights 3 times, a couple things may happen.
The light, when it shines on your car, it'll peel the paint off the car, cause a bubble up. Most of them say the car won't start till after the light leaves.
Omar Corns is the Zenith police chief.
There are people that swear it's there. And there's all kinds of stories I've heard all my life.
This is where the tree was that we always went to for the hanging tree.
Although many have their theories of where the Zenith Light comes from, it may just be science.
There's been people investigate it. Someone says it's just swamp gas.
Corn said around Halloween, interest spikes in paranormal activity. Another place in Dunklin County that attracts people is Crybaby Bridge.
You get out there, it's eerie. Just waiting on it, it's eerie.
Water trickles in the ditch. That is where the tale of a crying baby begins.
First story I heard, there was a house on the ditch bank years ago, and a man and woman had a little baby lived there. Something happened, he was gone or something, and the baby was crying, wouldn't be quiet. So she threw the baby in the ditch, drowned it. Then she couldn't take the pressure, so she jumped in the ditch and drowned.
This bridge connects 2 dirt roads. It's said if you stand on the bridge and recite the Lord's Prayer backwards, the baby will cry and the mother will appear from the water.
One person got scared, it spread pretty quick, everybody was kind of panicking.
Corn said he has not been to either location in a while, but this Halloween, he may take a brave trip there.
This October, This Halloween will be a good time to test it out.
Are you going to test it out?
I'm going to test it out if I get somebody to go with me.
Don't call me. Don't call me.
I'm inviting you, number one.
Reporting in Zenith, Imani Williams, Region 8 News.
Now, Imani never did check it out, but spirits and stories of them and ghosts have been the talk of many communities for decades. In some cases, cities and towns monopolize on these stories. Those from Powhatan Courthouse near Black Rock are no exception. They've been passed down for more than 100 years. So we decided that we were going to dig through the archives to find this story from Keith Bowles from back in 2008.
Any 120-year-old building offers the perfect setting for a ghost story. The Powhatan Courthouse near Black Rock is no exception. This is the Spirit Seekers' third trip, and they're seeing more and more activity.
And every year we've come back, there has been a little more activity, and by activity I mean the unseen things that happen around you that you can't really put your finger on.
The evening began with a presentation from the Spirit Seekers. Locals from the area gathered in the upstairs courtroom to hear the results of the last trip. One of the spirits they had encountered was a child who laughs in the courtroom. Well, more about it later. I sat down with Alan Lowe, the chief investigator. Of course, the first question I had to ask, was the courthouse haunted?
In your heart of hearts, Alan, do you believe? Yes, I believe it is.
Besides technology, the Spirit Seekers use those in tune with the spirits.
We've had psychics here. We've taken pictures and gotten electronic voice phenomenon.
With the lecture over, the group headed to the old jail to try their hands and copper or brass rods at connecting with the afterlife. Tammy Kroom of Black Rock was able to funnel the energy into the rods while my son Hayden asked a couple of questions.
Was your baby a boy?
Closed rods mean yes, open for no. It kind of limits your questions, but you can find out a great deal of information.
He asked her if it was Amanda, and she said yes, and that she committed suicide.
Yes. She hung herself.
By 10, the guests had departed, and the ghost hunters were gathering up their equipment and posting themselves around the grounds for their all-night vigil. Melissa was up in the attic where she had an encounter before. Others were back in the jail using the rods and looking for who or whatever was in the building.
Cross the rods if you're a male. Are you a male?
Remember I mentioned a child's laughter in the courtroom?
We've had laughter in this room, the sound of a child laughing.
I did hear something, but until I see something, well, the jury may still be out.
In Powhatan, Keith Bowles, Region 8 News.
And no matter where you travel in the natural state, you are sure to find a little bit of unnatural activity. Urban legends fill many towns. Right now on KAIT8.com, you can find a list of several other haunted locations and the stories behind them. And if you want to learn more about haunted places throughout Northeast Arkansas and Southeast Missouri, or if you want to watch these stories again, you can find it all on the K8 News app. Thank you for joining us for this K8 Investigates special, Hidden Haunts. We hope your night is full of fun and fright. Good night and happy Halloween.